dairy farmers know a lot more about productivity than traditional business leaders. Dairy farmers know that if you're kind to the cows, they produce more milk. And it's true. They give them massages, they pipe in music, they have foot washers. And so everyone, there's this brain kind of bloviating about like productivity and Taco Tuesdays and, culture. And it's all this sort of, word salad that doesn't really have any sort of integrated belief system. And what they want is what they want to achieve, which is basically only two things in business ultimately, is velocity, and which is productivity, speed to market, and then productivity. So if you have velocity and productivity, you're going to get something that will come from that. But velocity and productivity do not work if your people are not liberated. And this is my challenge. When I hear leaders talk about, well, our biggest asset, or our people are our biggest asset. And I'm like, man, they're not assets. They're not assets. They're the only thing that matters. And my further rant on this is the reason that they view them as assets is that these leaders are disconnected from their hearts. And if you do not know how to treat yourself, you do not know how to treat others. As the greatest brander of all time said, you love your neighbor as yourself. I would paraphrase that to love your team member as yourself. So,
and it's a two-way street, like you say. And there's another thing that I would put in there that's also part of the secret sauce, and that's purpose. If you look at the organizations that are most successful, the organizations that really change the world, it's because they have a team of people that's united by a sense of purpose to do that. And that purpose can be something altruistic, it could be something even materialistic, but it's a purpose. It's like, if you go back and look at the early days of Atari, they weren't trying to change the world in any sort of altruistic way, but there was this group of people that came around that company in its early days who saw the potential of digital entertainment and were like, oh, there's so much cool shit we could do. And, let's stay up late and work 18 hours a day to do it so we can get it to market fast. And it wasn't because some boss was, saying like, I expect you to ship this video game in the next, 30 days or you're all, going to get docked to pay. No, it's because people wanted to. And then if you look at a lot of times organizations like that over time, Atari, I think, ended up getting bought out by a bigger company and stuff. And then they imposed just the kind of standard, productivity models on it, and that you kind of crush all of that. But that's a key too, isn't it? Purpose.
It is, because I think it goes back to this: is that innovation requires liberation. You cannot, and you look at the scope of history, and you hear about like in World War II, what the Allied soldiers later in the war talking about like getting hit by bullets in the chest, and then they would just because the slave labor, the Nazi slave labor had shorted the powder in the bullets, and that was their act of rebellion against tyranny. And that's a very stark and dark historical example, but is that you look at where people are free to be themselves. This is why I'm a big fan of anything that involves inclusivity and DEI, and I don't necessarily like woke washing businesses that kind of give lip service to this, but like sincere DEI, sincere ESG initiatives, those type of things. What they're doing is they are liberating people to be themselves, and that's the great, like, in order to do that, in order to liberate people, they have to learn how to think for themselves, which means they're not following some year-long strategic plan like Good Little Robots. I mean, that's where red team thinking comes in. It's ultimately about not just teaching people how to cut through the bullshit. It's how to create true liberation and true autonomy by allowing people to think for themselves, but especially if they're organized, like you said, Bryce, around a purpose. It's exponentially different. It's obviously different.
Thank you for tuning in to The Thinking Leader. Check the show notes for more information about the topics covered in this episode there. You'll also find a link to our free assessment. Click on it right now to find out if you are a red team thinker with a red team culture.